Oh, look at that. You get that on video. Woo, boy. What is that, though? We'll just slide this back down. It looks fine to me. It's probably right. I don't know what I'm doing. Hey guys, it's Dan with MA Performance. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going over another exciting topic here. One of the first mods many people make to their cars is bringing it a little bit closer to the ground, right? We're gonna go ahead and touch on springs and maybe why an inexpensive option that comes in a variety of different styles and different price points ranging down to like $100 and some for a set of springs may be the better option for some of you guys that are looking for a cost-effective solution just to lower your car, versus kind of an all-in-one custom setup or even out-of-the-box setup as a set of coilovers like this from Fortunato, and why these may be beneficial for some of you that are looking for that added adjustability, whether it be in ride height, dampening, or potentially your top hat adjustments. So stay tuned. First, we're going to start with the less expensive of the two options between coilovers and just lowering springs. Lowering springs come in a lot of different variations. There's definitely linear springs and progressive springs. Some attributes to these that we're probably not going to get into today. It's for another video. But the main reason a lot of people are attracted to lowering springs, I think, is predominantly the price point. As mentioned earlier in the video, you can get into a set of quality lowering springs for $300 to $500. And they're going to drastically improve the look of your car and how that car rides, not only from a performance handling, but even in a lot of cases in day-to-day handling with roads, bumps, going over curbs, those sorts of things are going to be better with a quality set of lowering springs. So lowering springs, the main advantage that you guys are all looking for is to lower your car. And they'll certainly do that, and there's plenty of different types of lowering springs out there. The one disadvantage you get with that is that you're not getting any of the adjustability that comes with a coilover, such as dampening adjustability, caster and camber and select applications. It's just going to lower your car. And the manufacturers that make these springs, they're choosing the spring rate. Of course, there's engineers there that are qualified to do this, but they're choosing the spring rate and they're offering you an off-the-shelf product. It's boxed up, it's ready to go. It's not customized necessarily for your driving style, your needs. The other thing that is kind of set out of the box there is the amount of lowering that you're going to get. An aftermarket lowering spring is generally going to be quite a bit shorter, hence the term lowering springs. It's actually a shorter spring than what came in your OEM application, and that's where the term comes from. And again, when it's shorter, there's just no adjustability, guys. The second thing you guys get from installing a set of lowering springs, besides the looks and a little bit of a lower ride on your car, is the improvement in handling. As you get a lower spring, again, shorter for lowering springs, it's gonna be shorter in your OEM spring, the spring rate needs to be higher. And again, the engineers, whether you're looking at a quality set of springs from Swift, they offer a couple different lines, some of the Eibach line, any of the other brands that we carry, HKS lowering springs, Tanabe, all those good quality Tane lowering springs, those brands are going to give you a well-engineered, ready-to-go lowering spring kit right out of the box, meant for your car. The one drawback, you don't get to decide on any of the height or the spring rates that come with that. You're pretty much set with what they've manufactured and what they've decided is best for your application. Lowering springs are installed onto an OEM strut. So if you guys have some newer cars, your struts may be in pretty good shape and they may be not needing replacement and are not worn enough yet to need any sort of service. If you have an older car, and you're going to be replacing the struts anyways, sometimes it can be more cost effective to go the route of a coilover. But in most modern cars, they come with the great struts straight out of the factory. A lowering spring like this can be installed pretty easily if you have a spring compressor over that existing OEM strut. Some people see that as a downside, other people see it as a pro. So make sure you guys think about that when you're looking at your particular application and going with lowering springs or coilovers, because that's going to make a big difference. So we've talked about lowering springs, right? The next move is over to the coilover springs. Why I have these in front of me is to kind of show you guys coilover. It's a coil spring over a strut or a shock. So as you can see, they're pretty similar in the spring and even the spring heights in this case, although they're for different applications. But a coilover is the next step up rather than going with lowering springs. The main advantage that you're gaining by going to a coilover setup like what we have here from Fortunato is adjustability above and beyond the preset factory spring rate and lowering that you get with a set of off-the-shelf lowering springs. Customizing your ride height, that's these collars here, slide up or down to give you a lower look or a raised look. Customizing spring rates that are installed on the coilovers, The other thing that a lot of cases is going to come down to is the dampening levels. It really has to do with your driving style and how you're using the car. Most coilovers in the center will have some sort of dampening adjuster to tighten or loosen that dampening, and that will give you a different ride, again, depending on the terrain that you're on, how you're using the car. The last one, which is kind of situational, ends up being this top hat on top of the coilover. In this case, we do have caster and camber adjustment on this top hat. Every application is going to be a little bit different, whether these top hats are reused from your OEM over to this coilover setup, or if an aftermarket top hat is included with the coilover. So make sure that's something you're paying attention to. All of those options open up when you move from a lowering spring with an OEM or even an aftermarket strut over to a coilover or a full coilover system. When it comes to pricing on coilovers, there's a pretty wide range. I think a lot of you could go out there and probably find some eBay knockoff coilovers, painted a pretty color, maybe even some that match this color, that would be rather inexpensive, maybe $500 or less. And generally speaking, on the high end, I think you can get in some Ohlins and some nicer coilovers we offer up to about the $2,500 price, until you get into maybe some of the Fortune Autos with the air cup. Some of that stuff can even be $3,000 on up. So it's definitely a wide range of pricing when it comes to coilovers. And just like anything else in the aftermarket automotive space, it's going to come down to the quality of the components used to build that, the research and development time put into designing that product, and a lot of times, just like anything else, you're going to get what you pay for, guys. So when you're comparing a coilover to a lowering spring, there's a big difference in cost due to the manufacturing, the research and development, and the energy that it goes into this product here versus a lowering spring. We know there's some hybrids out there. I know, especially in the aftermarket world, Bilstein has some hybrids. Tane recently just came out with a strut and spring hybrid as well. For a lot of the popular cars, as far as factory replacements, that comes in kind of in between these two at a price point and gives you kind of the in-between as far as performance. So this isn't going to cover everyone. There are other hybrids and other variants, and you certainly can get customized lowering springs for your car. So feel free to ask any questions you guys have. Give us a call. We're here to answer those questions and talk more specifically about exactly how you're using your car to determine what's right for you. Whether you're looking at purchasing lowering springs or coilovers, make sure that you're factoring in your application. There's some really great brands out there, and we carry a ton of them. But in any case, the product has been engineered in the way that they see fit. If you're able to go out into that community, whether you own a Honda Civic or a Mitsubishi Evolution, you go into that community and see what the users of the products are finding, what their feedback is. Just because they have a similar spring rate or similar lowering does not mean that that car is going to handle the same with an iBox spring versus a Megan Racing spring, or a KW versus maybe a Tane spring. They're going to be a little bit different, and it's definitely important to know what you're looking for from a comfort standpoint, and then from, again, drivability. And if you're looking to maybe go extremely low, there's definitely going to be lowering springs meant for those sorts of desires, right? If you want to look at something that's going to be a little bit more customizable and you want to get into the coilovers, also know that these are also engineered for your application. Certain cars, even if it's the same brand, are going to ride differently. The same brand, the same series of coilovers in an Audi A8 versus a Subaru WRX are going to perform differently. It's because they've been engineered differently for that platform. So go out there, ride in as many cars as you can, interact with other individuals in the community, and get first-hand, real-world feedback with these products. I think you're going to have a lot better idea on what coilovers or suspension modifications you want to make, so that you can plan your build in a way that makes it fun and enjoyable for you. Now we've talked a little bit more about coilovers and lowering springs, something that you're going to need to consider is installation of these products. A lot of people think coilovers are a relatively easy install and anyone can do them. I wouldn't say that's necessarily true, but when it comes to comparing these two, you're going to need to identify if you're putting them in there yourselves at home or if you're going to bring it to a shop. In that situation, you'd want to get a quote and compare what those two quotes are. A lot of times it takes a little bit more work to install a set of lowering springs than it does to install a set of coilovers. Now on the flip side, to get coilovers properly set up to adjust dampening, adjust ride height, may take more time than just having lowering springs installed and they're set it and forget it out of the box. So there's going to be some comparisons there that you're going to need to make. Obviously you got a lower cost part, a higher cost part, but once you factor in installation, a lot of people find if they're not doing it themselves, coilovers may make more financial sense and gives them the future opportunity to make adjustments if they see fit. 3 things I've personally seen on cars that absolutely blew my mind was a set of lowering springs, zip tied each coil of the lowering springs together in order to compress the spring and lower the car. On the flip side, another one I've personally seen to go ahead and increase the space in between these, would people were to jack up the car and place hockey pucks or wood in between the coil of the springs to give the car a little bit of a bump so they could get larger tires. And those are 2 of the main things. The last one that I've personally done, and everyone can hate, I've cut springs in cars. If you guys have never cut springs, it means you've never owned a POS car and just wanted to do fun stuff with it. And that's fine for those cars. I personally was jumping these cars in ditches and over culverts. Do not, for any reason, cut your coilover springs and believe that car is going to be handling better or looking better, because it really is going to be seen by people, especially if you're into cars, you're going to show they're just going to think you're an idiot. So again, no hockey pucks, no zip ties, and no cutting unless you're just going off-roading with some POS. If you like today's content, like, subscribe. Don't forget to leave a comment on what you need to learn about coilovers and lowering springs in the comments below. Feel free to give us a call. We got the greatest brands. We got Swift, we got Fortune Auto, we got Eibach, we got BC Racing, we got Feel Suspension, Olin Suspension, Tanabe, KW, all in stock, all available for you guys, the best prices around. Make sure you reach out to us today to get your hands on your next suspension upgrade here at MA Performance. Have a good one. That was thumbs up into double pistols, into double fire mode.